everybody. I'm Amy,
And I'm Paul.
and welcome to the Comics Hall. We've got a great show for you guys this week featuring new comic books from Wednesday, May 19th. Where the heck has this month gone? I feel like we were just doing Star Wars. I
Like
felt
a
like
second ago.
we were just doing Star Wars, but the new comics they keep on coming every
hmm
single Wednesday, so we're here to cover them for you. But we are also joined by our fantastic moderator this week. You want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. It's Rob again. I'll be in the chats hanging out with everyone.
What's up, man? How you
Hey,
doing?
hey.
See, and just so everyone knows, Rob has also picked up all the books that me and Amy will be covering, as including the pick of the week and the 4 books that we will be covering. So, if you guys have any questions and maybe me and Amy can't get to them all, ask Rob. He's read everything because he's real good at his job, unlike some people.
I mean, I haven't even read all four of the books we're aiming this week because some of them were Paul's and I didn't
Amy,
read
no
them.
one's gonna believe that you're not good at your job. You're fine.
I was
you're good.
just trying to make it a fair.
No. We knew where the fingers were pointed there. Well, we have some excellent books to cover, but before we do that, we've got some really. It's a big week for
We've
news,
got some
Amy.
excellent books to cover that you can't read right now, but you can start to pre-order because we've got some hints from the publishers at what's coming up for August. And boy, howdy, there's more books.
There are more books, believe it or not. That train just keeps on rolling. So let's get started. This week, Marvel has made a number of announcements of new series and one shots, as well as series conclusions that fans can expect in August. First up, Alexei Shostkov and Yelena Belova are on the run as Russia starts cleaning house in the Winter Guard, a new 4-issue miniseries by Ryan Caddy and Jan Bazaldua.
I'm
I'm
very
gonna
excited to see more of the Winter Guard. A little bit of Ursa Major never hurt anybody. Next up,
cuddly.
I know, he's so cute. Up next, Marvel revealed a new look for Darkhawk with a new limited series from Kyle Higgins and Juanan Ramirez, featuring character designs by Pepe Larraz, who you may have seen doing some smashing work on all the Hawks Pox era X-Men stuff. The mantle of Darkhawk is officially passing to a new character named Connor Young, as if you might remember from when we previously covered Dark Hawk, Heart of the Hawk. That's a lot of ha 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 sounds. Dark Hawk, Heart of the Hawk. For the character's 30th anniversary, Chris Powell, the original wielder of the amulet, was killed off.
I
What?
didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say not to be confused with Ha Ha by Image Comics that we've also been
Coming
covering. Ha
next
Ha
week.
coming next. Yeah, I'm definitely covering it. I'm just spoilers, definitely covering it.
But yes, we are getting a new Dark Hawk series with a new character who's being introduced after, if you read that
Yeah.
special that was covered. Yeah, the original Dark Hawk. Pour one out for Chris Powell, man. But it's always fun to see legacy characters pop up.
Please keep them coming. So, the next Marvel's Voices anthology will be Marvel's Voices Identity #1, celebrating Asian and Asian American superheroes and creators, including stories about Shang-Chi, Miss Marvel, Jubilee, Silk, Jimmy Woo, and creators include Jean Luen Yang, Christina Strain, Marcus To, Maureen Go, and many more. Very excited for that. Those Marvel's Legacies books have been, Marvel's Voices, I'm sorry, have been crushing it.
Yeah, I think this will be the fourth one now, I believe. Oh no, it'll be the fifth technically after the
Oh, the
Pride issue
fifth?
that comes out next
Right.
month.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
because we had the Marvel's Voices #1.
hmm
Then there was Marvel's Voices Indigenous Voices. There was
Right.
Marvel Voices Legacy, which was the Black History Month. We've got Pride
Oh,
next month, and then we
right.
will have
So
the
this will be number
Asian American
5.
superheroes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope they keep kicking it. I keep
I
forgetting that
feel
the Women of Marvel anthology was not Marvel's Voices, but
I feel like
there's
we just covered that first issue because that also paired so well with that Marvel Voices podcast
yeah,
as well that
just
came out.
fantastic, hosted by Angelique Roche, who is
hmm
amazing. Just love her stuff. So you guys can check out that podcast in anticipation of the anthology. The podcasts are not like a serial format storytelling, but it is
Right.
interviews with Marvel's voices, the people who bring voices to the characters and
hmm
creative storytellers. Oops, and my light just died, but that's okay because finally Marvel revealed that the Immortal Hulk, like my light source, all good things come to an end. Marvel revealed that the
Nice.
Immortal Hulk series will be ending with issue 50 later this year. That's anticipated probably for about September, and Al Ewing and Joe Bennett will close out this incredible character redefining series. Like, seriously, guys, if you don't know what's up with the Hulk right now, oh my goodness. After launching in 2018, it is one of the few books from 2018 that is still running right now at the House of
Yeah.
Ideas. And issue 49 will be releasing in this August, and that will begin the epic finale as the creators end the story that they
Yeah.
set out to tell. I mean, Ewing said in an interview, "This was the story we set out to tell," and uh, he didn't say this, but they're landing the plane. You
Yeah,
know,
they are. And
which is so rare sometimes in these, in especially in superhero comics, getting to finish
oh, a
that
whole arc like
story.
that. And
Yeah.
Amy not shying away from the theater of it, turned off her light because she's in mourning because this book, it was so incredible. And I think, I'm just, calling my shot now. In 15 years, people will be saying like this is a defining arc for the Incredible Hulk, the Hulk, whichever version. Yeah, it is seriously incredible. It's Al Ewing at his best.
Hmm.
So moving along here, Archie Comics and Oni Lion Forge have both announced staffing changes this week. Now, we don't normally cover staffing changes, but this is particularly interesting. Alex Segura, the former Archie Comics co-president, will now be the senior vice president of sales and marketing for Oni Lion Forge Publishing Group. Meanwhile, Archie Comics has promoted two longtime employees. Stick with us here, I promise. It's going to pay off at the end. So first, Jamie Lee Rotante will be the new senior director of editorial. And next, Ronk Case will become director of publicity and social media. Now, Ron is perhaps best known for the viral Archie tweet from 2019 that simply read, "I'm baby," after the birth of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's child.
I love it
Another
in
character-defining moment.
your deep and serious voice. Just, "I'm baby."
I'm baby.
But yes,
I assume that's
that
how he read it, yeah.
that "I'm baby" tweet. So I hope for that and that alone he is being promoted. But that's really fun. I think it's cool that couple of publishing houses we don't cover as often on this show, but they're definitely still out there and kicking and making money moves with their staffing. Next up, we've got. I know this is. We should have done a pulling ahead segment, but seriously, like this stuff was all breaking news. We wanted to get it to you as fast as possible. We've got one new announcement from Vault and one new announcement from Image Comics as well. I'm super stoked. If you're watching us live, it is 4 p.m. or it's just past 4 p.m. Pacific on a Wednesday. You can always watch us live on Wednesdays. My background is actually the promotional cover release for Vault Comics' newest announcement. Vault Comics has revealed a new horror series titled Dead Box, coming from writer Mark Russell, artist Benjamin Tiesma, colorist Vladimir Popov, and designer Tim Daniel. Designer Tim Daniel is responsible for a number of the amazing logos that you see from Vault Comics, including, I believe, Finger Guns and the Autumnal. I think the Blue Flame as well, just those beautiful logo treatments.
Yeah.
So, Dead Box, which is a play on the word red box, tells the terrifying tale of a cursed DVD rental kiosk that serves as the main source of entertainment for the small town of Lost Turkey, which by the name already sounds like a very, very small, not much to do, maybe a one Starbucks town. But the residents soon
They don't have
discovered that
Starbucks.
that the rental machine plays films that are twisted versions of their own lives, and watching the movies causes people to go insane. Each issue in the Dead Box series will be based on a different movie genre, with art reflecting the style of those films, including, they named off, Pixar animation, action blockbusters, and superhero films, and we're likely to see more. Dead Box will be launching again in August, and it just sounds so amazing. I believe this will be part of their Nightfall lineup, particularly, which is the horror house, which has brought you the Autumnal, the Plot, I Walk with Monsters, all of the good, gory, creepy stuff from Vault Comics. But I love a good gimmick, and so far, I don't think we've ever seen a cursed DVD rental kiosk. So.
Not in comic form. I'm not convinced that the one in Silmar, California that we rent from is not rented, because I've rented from that particular red box, and I'm just saying it's creepy. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, super stoked for that. It's like Twilight Zone and Tales from the Crypt had a drink, and they're like, let's write a comic. So very, very stoked for that. Now, lastly, in our bit of news, Scotty Young and George Corona have reunited following the success of their series Middle West, which I know Rob is a huge fan of as well. So they are going to debut a new 5-issue miniseries from Image called "The Me You Love in the Dark." The series will launch in August, on August 4th, and follows an artist named Ro as she retreats from the city to find inspiration in an isolated old house. However, the muse within is not what she expected. Middle West Jean-Francois Beaulieu Bellew and Nate Piekos are also returning on colors, respectively. Basically, the entire team from Middle West will be back for the Me You Love in the Dark.
But this is
Very excited for that.
not related to
Not at
Middle
all.
West.
No.
It is an entirely new series, which I'm very excited about as well.
Yeah. It's always nice when teams get to reunite on something completely different. Huge, huge fan of that.
I do like that we're seeing currently a wave of upcoming extremely strong horror concepts, a number of which involve the kind of entertainment or the situations that we've all experienced in the last year, being alone in a house by yourself, renting movies for entertainment. We've got the nice house on the lake, which is a nice
Yeah.
retreat from the world with everybody else inside. So I like that we're seeing a crop of highly relatable and highly frightening horror stories that were probably thought up sometime early last year around March, April. I just think that's fun and really creative without getting, thank God no one's doing, let's do a pandemic horror. No, thank you.
Not yet.
There are so much scarier things like being trapped in your house with bad movies.
Or owing Redbox 1250 because you're just scared of that particular Redbox.
I'm going to do a haunted library fee comic next. No. But that covers it for new releases. Those are all August books. We're going to be getting the full solicitations from publishers for August very soon. And once those hit stands or in previews, you can begin to pre order them from your local comic book store. So if anything you heard today interests you, be sure to jump right on that because books can sell out all the time, as we've seen
Oh, yeah.
before, if you are not prepared for them. But there are some real gems coming up from Marvel, Vault, Image. I'm sure we're going to get DC's stuff very soon, too.
Very soon.
Really cool stuff going on. But that's enough for the news. We've actually got comics this week.
Yes.
So we're going to start our weekly haul segment where we come to you with all the newest titles from the week. And this week we are kicking off our weekly haul with a pick of the week because there was a book that Paul and I were both so excited to read, and we both found that it was one of our top reads for the week. We've got Wonder Girl #1 from DC Comics. Now, this is
Yes.
continuing the story of Yara Flor, who was introduced to fans as Wonder Woman in the Future State event, but now she is taking on the title of Wonder Girl. But for now, she's just Yara Flor, going back to Brazil in search of her heritage. Lots of really great stuff going on here. This is written with writing and art was done by Joelle Jones, with colors by Jordi Belair and letters by Clayton Cowles.
God, I don't know. That guy must never sleep. Seriously. Neither does Jordy. Wow, I can't. I don't know how any of them get anything done. But yeah, so what we're gonna do is very lightly aim this book. And if this is your first show with us, first of all, welcome, hello, and secondly, we'll explain very quickly what AIM is. It's an acronym. We don't really like numbers when it comes to book because what a 10 out of 10 is to us, maybe that's a 5 to you. So it can be incredibly subjective. So we AIM our books. The A stands for accessibility. How easy is it to find this book, and how easy is it to just jump into this book and understand what's going on? The I stands for interest. Who would like this book, and what's the overall interest in this book in the comic book industry? And then the M is money, or the monetary investment. How much does it cost? What are you getting for the price that you're paying? So, in a nutshell, that's what our AIM segment is. That's really how we rate books.
Yeah, we like to bring you the aim of the book so you have all the tools you need to make an informed decision whether or not you want to read this comic book. And
Yep.
at the end of the day, we hope the answer is yes.
Yes.
To
So
at
we'll be
least one of
doing
the
that.
books.
Fingers crossed. And I'm gonna say, and again, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I usually have the hot takes that make people DM me and say like, "You were wrong." Wonder Girl's the best book of the week. Easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not really like, I'm not really pulling that out of left field. Like I think it's pretty much come a consensus that if it's not the best book, it's up there. But it's definitely another hot take, the best looking book out there. I think that
Solid on every front.
on every single front. Joelle Jones, Belair, and Clayton Cowles had teamed up, of course, during Future State to tell that Wonder Woman story. But sort of jumping into the A here, the accessibility of this book. First of all, you should be able to find this everywhere with all of its many, many variants. There are some beautiful, beautiful variants for Wonder Girl #1. However, I'm going to tell you, go to your local comic shop, have them put this in your pool now because I have a feeling that this is going to be going to second and third print. It's that good. The Wonder Woman Future State book also did that. People were like, ah, well, we'll see. And then literally hours once reviews and everything started coming in, that book was selling out. Um, and maybe we can touch on it a little bit because I'd love to hear Amy's opinion on Yara Flor as a new character because again, Amy is well, incredibly, incredibly knowledgeable of all things comics. You have always tend to stray more Marvel.
Yes.
And
For
so
for those of you who aren't familiar, my history with DC, while it is crucial to my love of superheroes, I grew up on the original Teen Titans animated show with the Puppy
nice.
Amiyumi theme song. Uh, I've always strayed towards the periphery DC characters. I've tried many a time to read the main books. I have a number of Justice League #1s, especially after the Rebirth event. But I'm more of a casual DC reader, and I do like the introductions of new characters. I'm absolutely adoring
Yeah.
Far Sector right now, which is coming to a close. So Wonder Girl was really my stepping back in, and Future
Hmm.
State really helped me kind of reintroduce to some characters with the way that they made it super accessible. And now that everything in DC is considered an omniverse, uh, the different specifications of knowledge and what little series I have read are still technically canonical and important. So I wanted to dive in with Wonder Girl, and I found it extremely accessible.
Yeah.
Even I think even if you didn't read the Future State event, because the Future State event took the context of stories that could happen,
Hmm.
and then they said it's all true, but it didn't really give us a proper origin. It gave us an adventure of Yara Flor, who was considered Wonder Woman at that point.
Yeah.
But this is a totally kind of different view of her.
Yeah, and it's absolutely fascinating to read a character who feels so fleshed out. She is so well written, and her tone and the texture of the world that she lives in feels so natural and organic. And I think that has to do a huge part with Joelle Jones. Like this is a passion project, and it's really I don't know. It's refreshing, I should say, to read a character that has so much energy because Yara Flor, the main character, has so much energy as a character. Like if there's one thing I've noticed in her Future State book, even very briefly in the Justice League stuff, and in this book, it's like she's always moving forward.
Hmm.
Constantly just moving, 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 and Joelle Jones, doing the writing and the art, it just feels like she, some people just get it, and I've mentioned that before with some writers like who take over a certain character, if it's a new character, they just get it, and I believe that Joel Jones has that feel with Yara and the color palette that like they've sort of that they've had Yara Flor and that world adopt is in huge part obviously to Jordi Belair, who's crucial to this. I mean,
Hmm.
Jordy, another person who never sleeps, it seems like, who's always working. Um, but I think we had a question that thank you, Rob, who had brought this over to us. And Tenchi Masaki, it says, "Who's our Wonder Girl? Donna Troy, Cassie Sandsmark, or Yara Flor?" I mean, it's only been a few issues, but I'm gonna have to go with Yara,
I,
right?
I'm
Like,
gonna say it's hard to compare, yes, because Yara is so new, but also each character is so different and fantastic. And I loved them all. I mean, Yara wasn't included, but I loved Donna and Cassie and the other
hmm
Wonder Girls in the DC Bombshells universe. Which again, as I'm realizing, I'm like, oh shoot, that's canon now too. Um, but I love Donna Troy for classic Teen Titans, but I think at the point of readership that I am now, Yara Flor will probably become my favorite because also she is such a new character
hmm
that there's something about getting in on the ground floor of a
yeah,
character's introduction and getting to watch them grow. There's also a beautiful, if I can speak a little bit to the interest now, a beautiful blending of her Brazilian culture with
hmm
the mythos and the mythic qualities of not only just the Wonder Woman uh, world and kind of side of the DC universe, but
Right.
also just with her culture. That there's a lot of just really beautiful scenes of nature, and then we've
Mm-hmm.
got the kind of mythic creatures. And I won't necessarily say or specify what comes up in this issue, but there's a blending of the Greek and then the Brazilian into this really colorful, really just it just feels, I don't know, it just warm. I don't know. That
Yeah.
feels weird. Like, but warm, and the gold of her armor just gives
Mm-hmm.
this a really regal and actually really deep feeling to the mythos that is around her that she might not be fully aware of yet.
And what's interesting, Amy, and again, you can definitely speak to this, is this introduction of this character and what we're sort of seeing and seeing her lore be built right in front of us.
Hmm.
Normally we don't have that luxury. We have these characters who have been established for years and years, and then they have to find a twist or a different angle to approach that from, where this is all being built in front of us. It sort of feels like Kamala Khan, in that it has like the again, I'm gonna use the word again, but it just has an energy about it, like a feel where you're like, this is special, like it's gonna stick around. And I think Jones and Belair and Cowles, the whole team who are responsible for Yara Flor, like they just get it. They just like hit the nail on the head.
Hmm.
And this is a great. I mean, we've just kind of gushed about how much we love like the book on a macro level, but
Yeah,
I
and
mean, this,
before we move on from that, I do want to. It does feel in execution a Kamala Khan, but it also feels like she's a little bit of DC's answer to America Chavez, if you're an America
mm,
Chavez fan. And Marvel's
okay,
even reinventing America currently as we speak, and she's been around for 10 years. So that's
yeah.
not even similar in terms of watching an origin play up, because there's so much. These characters are living, breathing documents and living things. But she's the confident, fun, older than Kamala was teenage superhero, and not in the fangirl essence, but in the a newer character who is tangentially tied to a superhero we know. I mean, we had Captain Marvel and now we have Wonder Woman,
Hmm.
but is wholly her own identity. And while she will be taking the mantle of Wonder Girl in some form, uh, it's totally distinct from just, oh, I watched the previous Wonder Girl die in front of me and I have to honor that legacy.
Yeah.
She's going to be her own thing. And I
Hmm.
do think DC wouldn't be putting so much marketing attention behind her if they didn't wholeheartedly believe in the potential of this character.
Yeah, and this is definitely one of the few books that I think is tackling the post Dark Knight's death metal omniverse, like everything where all of the sort of pieces had landed after Dark Knight's death metal. Yara Flor and again some of the characters that you're going to see in this book played a huge part of that into the fallout of that book. This is one of the books that I feel like really, really sort of attacks that head on, and it's fantastic. I had felt personally like, while this issue is like action light, there's not crazy monster fights or anything, but it's by no means slow in pacing. Like it
There's
felt
still a lot of movement,
a
as you
ton
mentioned.
a ton of it. Yeah, so obviously we like this book.
That's our pick of the week, and the M in our aim. It's a 3.99 book, so there's
Hmm.
absolutely no excuse. I mean, that is the I miss the days of 2.99 books, especially when Rebirth hit originally. But 3.99 for a new number one for a fantastic
Hmm.
character. Now, of course, it's not her first appearance, so speculators, this isn't the reason why you'll be picking this one up.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you're picking it up because you are excited about her full and proper introduction to the DC universe post Future State. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's probably one of the best reads that you will find all week. Just delivering quality on all fronts. It is a new number one for a pretty new character.
100%.
Just a really great experience of walking into a store, and this could very well be someone's very first comic, and that would be like the perfect introduction to a new comic.
It sure would be. The only criticism, it's only 32 pages. I wish it was 132 pages. It was so good. Because that book, just one of those books. So, yeah, that is our pick of the week. Wonder Girl number one by DC. Go get it. Call your shop right after the show, of course. And then go pick it up. We would love to hear what you guys have to say. Again, I posted something in our Facebook group, the local comic society, side.show/your LCS. It'll be the first post you see when you go there. Let us know what you thought about it. We'll give everyone like a week or so, and then we'll lift the spoiler ban. But please, no spoilers.
No Wednesday spoilers.
No Wednesday spoilers, everyone. All right, now let's move into our weekly haul, our normal books. Me and Amy have two books that we're going to aim each. We've already kind of gone over what AIM stands for. I
Yep.
think I'm up to bat first here. It seems like, right, Amy? Yes,
Yes,
I
with
sure
Fantastic
am.
Four.
Yes. So the first book that I'm going to aim for you all is Fantastic Four Life Story number one, The 60s. Um, this is by Mark Russell, Sean Isaacs, and Nolan Woodard. Russell writing, Isaacs on the art, and Nolan Woodard doing the colors. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the life story format as far as comic book stories go, or formats go, we had one previously, and that was Spider-Man Life Story by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Bagley. And that was a huge, huge success. So it only makes sense that they would continue the line. And Fantastic Four is a very, very is just the logical. It's just the logical next step. And I think this is
Mhm.
the. It's also because this is the sixth. I might get the date wrong, the year wrong. I think this is the 60th anniversary of of Marvel's first family. I'm pretty sure it's 60 years.
I think so. I think
But
that's what that cute little logo on the cover
yeah. Oh,
is as
you mean
well.
the thing that says right there, 60 years? Yeah. Um, so the first issue. Thank you, Chris. Feels a little passive aggressive, Chris, but that's fine. So the first issue, of course, takes place in the 60s, and it is an origin story just for people. So I guess jumping right into the A, how easy is this to pick up and read? This is actually a really great place to start with the Fantastic Four. If you've never read Fantastic Four, or maybe you only know them from like maybe some of the movies, or just in passing, or from Marvel events, like this is a great, great origin story that's not too origin heavy. It retells in a really interesting and lifelike way the of how the Fantastic Four became the Fantastic Four. I mean, and you see Lyndon B. Johnson, you see Nixon, you see John F. Kennedy. So it's cool to see the characters sort of um, start there when the characters were actually created. Marvel's tag was the world outside your window, right? For the
Yeah.
longest time, and this actually, it kind of puts that to the T. And I absolutely love it. Now, if you're unfamiliar, again, life story, that particular format, it ages the character. So issue two will have the Fantastic Four in the 70s, but they will have aged up 10 years, and then so on and so forth. And again, all of them being written by Mark Russell, Isaac, and then art by Isaacs as well. So now, as far as the interest for this book goes, it is obviously if you're already a Fantastic Four fan, you're gonna want to read this book. It's really great. It does a good job of reintroducing some elements of the story and the Fantastic Four mythos and lore and that dynamic that I personally like. All four of them being Johnny, Sue, Ben, and Mr. Fantastic himself. Reed. Oh my God, I couldn't think of Reed's name. Reed. They all have very distinctive personalities and very different ways of how they view the outside world and how they view the Fantastic Four family. And this introduces some really interesting elements. Again, this isn't much of a spoiler because, again, they've been around for 60 years, but Ben Grimm and Reed Richards hated each other for the longest time. It was mainly one-sided. Ben Grimm actually really hated Reed Richards
I
because
think
he's
a
like,
lot of people really hate Reed Richards. So, I mean, is he really that wrong?
no, 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 he's in the majority. And yeah, but Ben hates him because he turned him into the thing, and he's the only one that looks different. And the Fantastic Four is being celebrated, and they're going on TV, and they're like, "Oh, look how normal these people look." And then they still have powers. And Ben Grimm feels really sort of shafted by that, in that he's like, "Hey, I'm the only one that looks different." And his first, well, I guess wife, his fiance at the time, had left him, and it's a whole thing. But they go into a lot of those key points that we got in the original '60s book in this, told in real time, and it's so good. I'm really excited to see sort of how the Fantastic Four develop with American culture in real life. It'll be interesting because obviously the next issue is 70s, 80s, 90s, and I believe it ends with them in the 2000s. I think this is only a 6 issue, so that doesn't make sense. Yeah, so it'll end up with them in 2020. Very, very stoked for the rest of this. Again, this is, let's see here. This is 4.99, 32 pages, and again, it's only 6 issues. It's absolutely fantastic, and I've got the Marcos Martin cover B variant behind me. If you guys are watching live from the podcast, hello, and you should watch live so you can see our sick backgrounds.
But
And
if you are listening to our podcast feed,
oh right,
which does
thank you, Amy.
does go up every Thursday after the show on Wednesday, you can go to sideshow.com/geek and check out our blog, and we will post up all the cover assets and other images that were referenced in the show.
Yes.
If you want to catch up on what the heck we're talking about when we're describing these beautiful art pieces.
Exactly. Well, Amy, I'm handing the baton off to you because that's all I've got for Fantastic Four Life Story #1.
All right, well, I will gladly take the baton, and I am going to review for you guys Shang-Chi #1, which is also subtitled Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe.
Nice.
But it's not, if you're thinking Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe and all that stuff, it's not quite the same. However, we are going to see Shang-Chi being pitted against some of Marvel's heroes, butting heads as he is a reestablished hero in the universe, and his mythos has kind of been redefined. And some of Marvel's mightiest might not take kindly to what he has to do now. Getting a little bit ahead of myself, though, this issue was written by Jean Lewin Yang, with art by D.K. Ruan, colors by Trina Farrell, and lettering by Travis Lantham. Now, in terms of accessibility, this is not a true #1 for the character. It is very extremely rare to find a true #1 in a big two, aka Marvel or DC title. And we say true #1 as in the book requires you to have read absolutely nothing else prior to entering the story. You can just pick up the first issue and have everything you need to know ready to go. That is not the case with Shang-Chi, as he is an established character who's been around since the Bronze Age of Marvel, and he was previously featured in a mini-series earlier this year, also titled Shang-Chi #1 through #5. I don't want to go into too many spoilers about how that series resolved, but that is the place to start if you are looking for Shang-Chi's latest adventures as he's being revitalized and reimagined ahead of his film debut. However, this is a pretty good starting place for if you're cool with rolling with the punches. It does give you a quick up to speed on what's new in Shang-Chi's life, namely the fact that he is the supreme commander of the Five Weapons Society. And if you're not sure what the Five Weapons Society is, you're going to want to check that previous series out. But that is an organization that his father was tied to, and now he is responsible for cleaning up his villainous father's messes. Now, it is subtitled Versus the Marvel Universe because each issue seems to be taking the form of introducing a superhero, namely Avengers, that Shang-Chi will come into conflict with on his adventures, excuse me. But he's also working alongside them. Sometimes their goals align, but sometimes their methods may differ. So this first issue is a Spider-Man issue. If you are interested, so in terms of interest, if you like Spider-Man, you'll definitely want to check this out because Shang-Chi and Spider-Man have had a lot of history together. Shang-Chi was Peter Parker's former kung fu master, and there are some nice editor's notes to let you know where you can catch up on some of those references that they make in the issue. But it's specifically in this story, Shang-Chi is tracking a drug ring while Spider-Man is tracking a weapons ring. And unfortunately, it may come down to having had something to do with Shang-Chi's father. But I won't explain too much more than that. But there's a lot of fun action. There's some new characters in it. And I say new, again, a lot of this is continued off of that 5-issue miniseries. Now, this was billed by Marvel as an ongoing series, but I do believe it is limited. I thought it was also another 5-issue series, but I could be wrong. I will let you guys know if I find the clarification, or if somebody has the clarification, let me know. But issue 2 will be a Captain America themed issue where he is headbutting with people as they discover a cosmic cube for sale. So it kind of almost seems like each issue in the series will be interconnected, but not necessarily one overarching story. We're going to have different vignettes in Shang-Chi's life as he encounters different Marvel superheroes. But this is a really interesting reinvention of the character. It's definitely not, if you know anything about the character, which you may know nothing about, and that's fine because Marvel is massively reinventing his backstory, kind of straying away from some of the harmful stereotypes that arose in the Bronze Age of a kung fu master. He's taking on a role that other heroes might not think is super good and wholesome. I mean, he's got a lot to atone for, but like Matt Murdock leading the Hand, a lot of these clandestine organizations that operate in the shadows, it's going to take somebody strong to lead them, but it's also going to take someone even stronger not to fall into the same traps of leading a dark organization.
Right.
And so the Five Weapons Society is a really interesting addition to Shang-Chi's lore. And I think I think it's really fun. I mean, the first series, which was also done by Jean Lewin Yang and DK Ruan, was really popular. The first two issues completely sold out at the distributor level. So I think that's great. So there's still time to get your hands on those. I believe it's in trade now, if not now, very soon. And
Hmm.
this is both this series, the kind of kills or not kills the Marvel universe, but the versus the Marvel universe and the regular Shang-Chi, which is it's confusing now that there's two Shang-Chi number ones in the same year.
Yeah.
That might, in terms of accessibility, that might make it a little harder to go searching for these books, but there should be plenty of copies available, and this is a great place to get introduced to the character. And
Hmm.
I wonder how much of this stuff might show up in the film, if at all. I mean, the series was pretty new this year, but it could have been discussed in the works as Marvel's reinventing the Mandarin in their films as well. So
Hmm.
who knows? But it is a good time to get in on this character who is kind of having a second life in Marvel Comics. Now, in terms of M, this is $3.99 and it is 28 pages long, pretty standard for a Marvel non-event number one. So you can pick that up at your local comic book store or on Comixology. And as with all Marvel issues, this does come with a bonus digital edition you can claim at marvel.com/redeem if you have the Marvel Comics app. I think that's always a great thing that I tend to forget
I
about the
love
Marvel
it.
Comics, but you get a free digital edition as well. So you can read it, you can bag it and board it, put it away in your long box,
Hmm.
and then you can use the digital code to go back and reference digitally and safely instead of having to, pull open the bag and board and risk the slipping it out and getting the tape stuck from the
Oh,
flap
a
on the cover.
nightmare.
Nightmare scenario. So
My
that's
hairs are,
Shang-Chi
my skin is
versus,
crawling.
versus the Marvel Universe number one.
Yes, very excited for the rebirth of this character. Mainly because it's not a character I know that much about. So it's always nice to see how Shang-Chi will be integrated into the larger Marvel Comics universe and cinematic universe.
Hmm.
Super stoked for that. So moving along, thank you so much, Amy. Taking the baton. Um,
Oh, here you
so,
go.
I already took it, Amy. Moving on to the last book that I will be aiming for you all. It is Legends of the Dark Knight number one, of course, by DC Comics. This was a digital first, so I believe they got it last Thursday. But it is in print today as well. This is by Derek Robertson, who did the writing and the art. You may know him from writing The Boys, as well as he wrote, I would say, like 25 to 45% of Transmetropolitan. He wrote a lot of Transmetropolitan with Warren Ellis. So, and then Diogo Rodriguez is on colors. So, ultimately, setting the scene here, there is someone who is selling a very deadly gas in Gotham and selling it to all the big players in Batman's Rogues Gallery, and of course that just doesn't sit well with old Bruce there. So it's a story about him, you know, identifying who is this person, how has this person been operating in Gotham under his nose for so long, and sort of where do you go when you're the only one between, this terrible product and all these villains. So just another Thursday for Batman, basically.
Not Bruce Banner, Bruce Wayne against capitalism. Who would have thought?
I thought you were going to say Bruce Banter, and I was like, that's great. I would love to see that, but he's not a real banter guy. Let's just say that. So as far as the A goes, the accessibility, this should be pretty easily found. I would assume that your local comic shop ordered a few physically for these. You should have no problem walking the wall and finding this. Now it's interesting if you do get it digitally, which is available right now. Is actually again it was available on Thursday. You can get it on Comixology. It'll be available on DC Universe Infinite in about 2 weeks. That's usually what their timetable is. But what's interesting is online it's like 25 pages. It's 32 pages on when you get it in print, and that's because there are a few more bonus pages that they threw in that were sort of a teaser or edited in from the next issue. So, if you, I mean, you can buy it digitally and read the whole thing, and it's only like 98 cents. Again, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, or you can buy it physically, and I believe it's 3.99. But you get a little bit more comic here, and you get it in print. And some of Derek Robertson's and Diego Rodriguez's art is just absolutely incredible. I love the way they draw Batman in the Shadows. It's so dope. Now, as far as the other half of accessibility, the other half of Dent's coin there is basically if you are a Batman fan, this is already going to be territory that maybe you've read before, maybe some stuff that you have I don't know. Again, it's not retreading old water with Batman because it is a new. For all we know, this is a new villain, but you don't need to have any Batman knowledge really to. I think jump into this book. I think you'll be fine. I'd be hard pressed to find anyone that doesn't have any Batman knowledge. So everyone out there should be fine. I kind of like the way that Amy had put it earlier when we were talking about Wonder Girl. If this was someone's first comic, I think they'd be okay. I think they'd be fine. They know who
Think
some
you're
of the
gonna be fine, kid.
yeah, no problemo, pal. So I think this is as accessible as a Batman story can get. It does feel like a in between big, huge Batman events type of story. So kind of jumping along to the interest of this, this is a good, I would say, detective Batman story. It's not so, high flying and punchy, if you will. It is a little bit more. I've always liked the like inner monologues, like the detective inner monologues that Batman does when he's kind of putting together the crime scene that we see in like Batman: The Black Mirror and some of the best Grant Morrison stuff. That's really one of my favorites. Now, I did say I was telling Rob a little earlier. This feels like a side mission in like Arkham City. This isn't maybe something that I think like this particular story does not have legs for 12 issues, but it's only 3 issues that we'll get to find out the conclusion of this story about this whoever selling this deadly gas to these major villains in Gotham. So it feels like a good side mission from like the main Batman continuity. And it's great. It's a fun Batman book where if you are missing, if you like the Penguin, I do like also that Derek Robertson is the type of person who's my favorite type of person that writes Penguin with the little like wah, wah. He writes him with the little penguin noises in between his sentences, and that
Nice.
doesn't happen nearly enough. I love it so much. I don't know if that's what penguin noises sound like, but I gave him my best shot. Um, so
I don't know about enough about penguins to debate you on that, so
yeah, unless Rob's a penguin scientist, I think we're all tapped out here. So he's saying no, and so yeah, it's really great. The best comic right now that I can sort of compare it to is like the Batman Secret Files. That is a you know what Batman is doing in between some of the bigger stories and continuity. It sort of feels like that. And again, it's Legends of the Dark Knight for a reason. These are just sort of 1, 2, 3 issue stories, all within the Batman verse. And then jumping over to the M and A, the monetary investment. Again, 3.99 if you buy the physical copy or 98 cents, but if you buy the online digital version for 98 cents, you get less comic and you get less story. So if you can, if you're in the shop, just pick up the physical version. I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. 32 pages, and this is issue 1 of 3 in this arc by Robertson and Diego Rodriguez. So, Legends of the Dark Knight, go get it wherever you can get it. It's good.
and
Amy?
that's the word from Paul. Okay,
Time.
Paul, I'll take
Oh,
it back. Thank you.
there you go.
All right, and so our last book that we are covering on the show today is Heroes Reborn #3 from Marvel Comics. But in this Heroes Reborn segment, I kind of want to give you just a brief overview of the whole event so far because I feel like we've been remiss. It began during Star Wars week, so we weren't able to tackle it right away. And I think this is a really fun event that a lot of people are definitely going to overlook because we just came off the heels of King in Black. We've got Extreme Carnage coming up this summer. We've got the Hellfire Gala, and I think a lot of people were maybe a little skeptical about this title. So specifically, Heroes Reborn #3 is written by Jason Aaron with art by Federico Vincentini. With there's a backup story with Ed McGuinness and Mark Morales on the pencils and inks, and they are one of the most consistent collaborative teams with Jason Aaron on the main Avengers title. The main story has colors by Matt Mia, and Matt Wilson does the backup story, and then lettering throughout by Corey Petit. Now, this is the overall event has been spinning out of the Avengers series, but I don't think you need to have read the Avengers series at all to appreciate what's going on here because Heroes Reborn, while borrowing a title from a previous Marvel event, is basically what if Marvel did the DC universe. The Squadron Supreme, it is no secret, is Marvel's answer to the Justice League in as much loving homage and as much legal toying the line as they can get to copying the distinguished competition. And I, for one, have a ton of fun with those types of alternate universe stories. It feels like a partial love letter to Amalgam Comics in an age where we cannot have Amalgam Comics due to licensing restrictions. But we do have mashup supervillains within Marvel's own catalog. And in this particular issue, we see the Blur, who is Stanley Stewart, the fastest mortal alive. And he is fighting the the Silver Witch, who is Wanda Maximoff after she absorbed the speed powers of her dying brother Pietro, and she blames the Squadron Supreme for letting him die. And so she can cast 1,000 hexes per minute, and it's a race against time for the Blur to outstrip the Speedster Supreme in a race against time. It is a fun issue, and honestly, I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is and say that you could pick up this issue without having read the rest of the event, as long as you understand the idea that the world has been remade somehow and the Avengers never formed. Each of the issues so far has featured, well, actually, the first issue was kind of a complete overview of how the universe has changed. If you can still find that issue, I would highly recommend it because it feels like vignettes because it's like over here in the world we've got the Blur, and then Power Princess is fighting Allgog in the ruins of Asgard, and then we've got Hyperion, the all-American soldier man he's like powered by the sun, and I bet you can guess who that's a take on. And by day he's a mild-mannered middle school teacher, or I think it's high school, whatever. And then we've got Nighthawk and Dr. Spectrum and all of these, and they're fighting their villains gallery like Dr. Juggernaut, who's Doom and Juggernaut put together, and Thanos and the 10 Rings, not Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings. We've got the Infinity Rings.
Voice carrier.
We've got the Silver Witch, and I'm trying to remember who else we've got, but it's so much fun. Allgog is technically Odin, and Mangog, who was an amazing villain in Jason Aaron's run, but also from classic Thor comics. So it is as much a mashup as we can get, both of Marvel characters and our lovely, lovely DC stand-ins. Now, specifically for Heroes Reborn #3, as I mentioned, it is taking the perspective of the Blur. It introduces you to him and his adventures. In terms of accessibility, you absolutely do not have to know who this character is. You don't have to know that he's no longer the Wizard, but the Blur. This is Stanley Stewart. But I will say, in terms of accessibility in a metatextual sense, this is written like a speedster talks or thinks. It is stream of consciousness. Some sentences will straight up change the subject in the middle of the sentence. He repeats himself constantly because he forgets what he's talking about because he's moving too fast. But there's some really fun jokes of him saying, like, how many televisions do I have in my apartment? I'll count it for you. I've got 48. Like, all in one paragraph. But that leads to the issue having a very frenetic and frantic pace that if you're not paying attention to the reading, you could kind of get stumbled by it. It's very frantic, like a speedster would be, and I think it's a fun way to metatextually incorporate the powers of a speedster. But it's also a little bit of a challenge to read. I will say, accessibility wise, it's not 100% there, but it's fun. it's fun and annoying because this guy is absolutely the most fun and annoying of the Squadron Supreme. There is a backup story in the end, as I mentioned, that is the Avengers storyline, kind of continuing as Blade, who's the only person who remembers what the universe used to look like, is slowly assembling the Avengers. And I won't spoil how that's going about. But the next couple of issues. I mean, there's an issue a week, so that's also a thing for accessibility. These are $4.99 issues. The first issue is $5.99 in the series, but every single week there's a new Heroes Reborn of the main 7-issue event. The next issue covers Dr. Spectrum, who is Marvel's take on the Green Lantern, except he's got all the colors. And then we're gonna have Power Princess. Then we're gonna have Nighthawk. And it's going to wrap up with the Squadron Supreme versus the newly reformed Avengers. And it's a quick 7-week event.
Nice.
All of the tie-ins are actually one-shots, I believe. I think there was some. I personally was mistaken in thinking a lot of them were 3-4 issue minis like we get for most events, but I think they're actually all one-shots, which is really nice. Actually, it makes everything seem like a quick palate cleanse. I'm checking out Young Squadron next week, which is Kamala Khan never got inspired by Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers could never get promoted and was always getting busted for breaking the rules of the Air Force. So she takes after Power Princess and dubs herself Girl Power. And then we've got Sam Alexander, who is who's the, I don't know what his superhero name, but he takes after Dr. Spectrum instead of Nova, and after Sam Wilson, the Falcon, the longtime compatriot of Nighthawk, dies in the field of battle, Miles Morales steps up to become the next young Falcon. So I think that'll be a fun one-shot. And then I'm also checking out American Knights, which is the Marvel Knights corner of the universe. We've got Daredevil and we've got Commissioner Luke Cage, who is the hero that America needs right now. So I highly recommend, if you were at all skeptical or sleeping on this event, it is a fast-paced event, and not just because of this issue. But it doesn't have the price point of many other series. While it did put a lot of books on hold, like there are no new Thors or Captain Marvels going on right now while this event is happening because of the way that the characters are changed in this universe. It's a quick event that doesn't require too much else extra of you from the fun tie-ins. And whether or not you're reading the main Avengers book, if you're a sucker for multiverse and alternate universe stuff, you're going to want to jump on this one because you don't have to go back to reading Jason Aaron's Avengers afterwards. If you are not, you're going to get the best payoff for all of this story. But otherwise, it's just a ding-dang fun alternate universe with Marvel's closest approximation of DC Comics. I mean, he fights Ursa Major in a scene in this book, and you're like, obviously that's the Flash and Gorilla Grodd. And then as a nerd, it makes you feel really smart because you know what they're referencing. It's a loving homage to everything between both of the big two publishers.
The big two. And I think this whole event is good for Marvel. Like, they've just gotten out of like so many like serious, continuity driven events, with we had Empire, and then we have what was in between Empire and King in Black? There's something in between.
Was there something in between the two of those? I thought King in Black was next because Empire rounded up in the fall.
There's gotta be something.
I don't remember, man.
I know,
that's what
I
it
know.
is. There's been so many events.
Ten of Swords.
Ten of Swords.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's Ten
I was
of
gonna
Swords.
say it's those X-Men ones keep switching between. You just watch Nerd Brains buffer in real time. Yes, Ten of Swords, then King in Black, and now we've got Heroes Reborn, and then we're gonna go into the Hellfire Gala and Extreme Carnage. So you might overlook this event, but this one. I don't think is going to have a huge world-ending effect on continuity. That's
except for poor Blade.
Except for Blade. I might be a skeptic, but it does feel like extremely harmless alternate universe fun.
Nice, which is we could all use. That sounds great.
And after the first issue was a big one. I think it was about 40 pages and was $5.99. But every resultant issue is $4.99 at 36 pages. You're getting a lot of story because it is a profile on each member of the Squadron Supreme with a little bit of Avengers sneaking around in the back.
Those Avengers. All right. Yeah. Well, everyone, that is all of our. Those are all of our aims, and again, you can catch all of those on the blog, which will go live tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow morning.
Yes, so that'll be live tomorrow morning. If you want to catch some of these covers and see some of the books that maybe you just joined us. If you did, welcome, hello. But we are going to move into our next and last segment, the Hauler at the Hall segment. And this previous week, we had asked you all a a question that sort of fit in with Heroes Reborn. So Amy, with the foresight that she has, ended it with Heroes Reborn, and this it just kind of worked out perfectly here. We asked, "What is your favorite Big Two publisher crossover event?" Now, is you guys did also say like, "Oh, which event that crossed over Marvel and DC?" That also works. A lot of you did say Amalgam, but we were thinking specifically in world, either Marvel or either DC. Your big character crossover events, which have been your
Yes.
favorites?
I apologize for the confusion on that because technically these events are considered crossovers because titles that are usually separate from one another cross over within the house. But yes, for those of you who said Amalgam Comics, absolutely. I have a couple of those
100%.
myself. I think I've got Lobo the Duck and I've got Amazon and maybe the
The
Wolverine.
Wolverine one, I have that
The
one
Wolverine
somewhere
one
as well.
is.
Yeah, is it Wolverine and Batman?
Yeah, it's Wolverine and Batman.
Dark Knight?
Dark
No,
Claw. Dark Claw.
Dark Claw.
Dark
Dark Claw.
Claw. There we go.
Nerd buffer times two again. All right,
But
so up first we've got Anthony Barrera had said, "It's been a long time since I read comics, so not familiar with a lot of the new ones. One of my favorites was Age of Apocalypse. I collected all of the issues at the time, including Legion Quest, that led into Age of Apocalypse. I know some of the characters and storylines didn't make sense, but I still enjoyed it as a whole. And just so you all know, that's February 1995. And let me tell you, Anthony, you enjoyed it. So that's all that matters. That's all that matters in comics."
up next, we have Alex Cutler, who said Flashpoint has to be my favorite. How the Reverse Flash changed everything just to get revenge on Barry because he didn't let him be the Flash in the 25th century. Excuse me. That is a grudge for the ages. Well, I bet Blur would have something to say about that. But Flashpoint is one of those absolute standout events. I mean, if you get Funko Pops, which Flashpoint did, then you know you've made it.
You've made it. They will not unblock me on IM, but we'll get our Funko Pops made for the Comics Hall. So up next is Kelsey Lynn Clary. He says, "I think I have to go with the original Secret Wars from 1984. It was one of the first collections my dad gave to me to read when I started reading comics, and it just keeps a special place in my heart for that." Yeah, I totally understand. My choice is also very, very near and dear to my heart as well, which we'll get into right after this last one.
And Pete Tano says, in terms of crossover events that affected all titles, I would say the first Secret Wars as well. But my favorite event that affected all heroes was Marvel's Contest of Champions limited series. 3 issues that didn't affect any other titles, but involved heroes I had never even heard of to that point. We've got a fantastic cover on the screen from a Marvel Comics limited series, Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions. Which was, of course, the inspiration for the popular mobile game, which I absolutely loved playing until I got absolutely outclassed by everybody else who has faster thumbs than me. But that in itself is also a very similar idea with heroes fighting in these battles kind of for the entertainment of one of the cosmic entities of the Marvel Universe. Also very similar to the Secret Wars with the Beyonder.
Yes.
Yeah, just that cover. I mean, we don't even have to go in and name them, but just so many fantastic characters that I'm sure there are plenty you recognize and some that you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a great. Sorry, I love with Silver Surfer, the Sasquatch from Alpha Flight.
Oh yeah.
I love how wide he is.
Look at Angel. Oh, look at Angel up there.
Yeah, and the Human Torch. I love the way that the old Human Torch was drawn with those weird lines going down him. But we will post that up on our blog. Thank you guys so much for answering. We got a lot of great responses for a lot of great events.
Yes.
Now, Paul, do you have a personal favorite?
Hold on. It's Blackest Night. That entire run, that entire event is incredible. It was one of the few events where I read everything before at a time when I definitely could not afford everything, but I bought everything. And I had been reading Green Lantern for so long, and it meant so much to me. So to have such an incredible another character defining event fold out in front of me in real time and getting to be there week to week, it just it's something that like I haven't really experienced since. And so, the whole Blackest Night storyline, the Green Lantern Blackest Night storyline, I'm sorry, it's my absolute favorite. What about you, Amy?
All right. Oh man, I have kind of 2 answers because one I mean, I'm sure it's no secret. War of the Realms was the most amazing payoff for 7 years of Jason Aaron's storytelling, and I bought every single tie-in, every single main issue. I bought the flippin' long box or the short box that had the decals on it for War of the Realms to match. I got all of the comic book store promotional items like name tag stickers that said, "Hello, my name is blank from Alfheim," or all the different realms. That weird circular calendar thing they gave us. So that was the one I had the most fun with in terms of personal engagement. But in terms of an event that I just really loved, that I only really loved coming out of it and looking back, Secret Wars 2015. It was tough while it was going on because there were so many issue delays. I mean, the infamous 6 of 8, 7 of 9, where they added an extra issue, having to sell that at comic book stores and tell everybody, no, Iron Man is gone for the next 5 months or however long. I mean, it was actually more like three or 4 months, but just having that entirely stop the entire publishing line at Marvel and having to explain that and sell that to people. But at the end of the day, I had so much fun with it, and it was so much bigger than the original Secret Wars. How every single realm and battle world got its own story. I mean, that's where we got
So cool.
A-Force. I loved the Scotty Young baby Marvel universe. I loved Kieran Gillen's Siege, which was basically the Night Watch, but for Marvel, from like the Game of Thrones, like the Watchers on the Wall.
Where Monsters Dwell was one of my like favorite like random stories. I was like, I've never heard of this, but Where Monsters Dwell was fantastic.
And Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps was Kelly Sue DeConnick's farewell to Captain Marvel, but it was also Kelly Thompson's stomping grounds for Captain Marvel. That was kind of the brought her on to test with Kelly Sue.
Yep.
That event redefined current Marvel, and I just had so much fun with it. So
Oh yeah.
it wasn't fun while it was happening, but when you get done with it, you're like, that's a masterpiece.
It sure was. Now, Rob, what about you, sir? You got to tell us.
Super
You didn't think
moderator
we
Rob.
didn't think you were going to bring you back on, but you're here now. You got a favorite
I'm
event?
back. I'd probably say House of M, actually.
Oh,
I was a
okay.
huge fan of that, reading it. And it's kind of interesting now because one of the things that made that such a unique story in my mind at the time was that mutants were all of a sudden in power. They weren't the underdogs, which is exactly what we're seeing now in the current X books, where they are the dominant force in kind of the Marvel worlds. So I really appreciated that, and I'm really enjoying the X books for the same reason.
Yeah,
Awesome.
100% great answer.
And it played very nicely into WandaVision, the streaming smash hit of this year. So
Never heard of it.
ne- just just a little independent streaming service called Disney Plus. But yeah, and I mean, now that we're getting Secret Invasion as a Marvel series, we're getting Armor Wars, which again is like a super deep cut Marvel event that had its own battle world in Secret Wars.
Secret Wars sure did.
I liked how Secret Wars had all those events. Like, it did have a House of M. It had all the
Yeah.
previous events as its own.
Even the
mini titles.
original Secret Wars,
Yeah.
Deadpool going back, right?
Yeah, Deadpool's Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that was, and that's
we
where
could
we
talk
got Gwen,
Secret Wars
we got
literally forever.
Gwenpool from a variant cover.
Oh, yeah,
that was
we
her
sure
first
did.
appearance. Anyways, I could go on forever about that. Magnificent, and that was a Hickman. That was a Hickman
Sure,
production.
boy, was it.
Oh boy. But I think that about does it right now. We do have a
Yeah.
question for you guys for next week, though. And speaking of books that we love and books that are near and dear to us, if there was one comic that you could go back again and read for the first time, we will wipe your memory for you, Men in Black style. Not really, but first time, have all your knowledge of it erased and re-experience it again for the first time, what would it be and why? We will post this up not only in the Light Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, Sideshow's official Facebook group, but also in Local Comics Society, which is our official Facebook group, side.show/your LCS, where we talk comics every week. We will also have this on Instagram and Twitter and our Facebook at The Comics Hall, and you can always email us at thecomicshall@sideshow.com. Make sure you get all your ats in the right places. But that will be for our show on May 26th. If you are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified when we
Ding.
go live. We do pride ourselves on being pretty consistent every 4 p.m. Pacific on Wednesdays, New Comic Book Day. But just in case, because human error and technological supremacy, we'll let you know exactly when we're going live.
Sure
So
will.
be sure to subscribe. And then if you are checking us out any on any of our other channels, thank you for joining us. And remember, we do have our podcast feed that goes up on Thursday mornings around 8 a.m. Pacific, and you can check our blog shortly thereafter at sideshow.com/geek for all the visual assets that we featured in our show. I think that's all the things that I am legally obligated to tell you about our fabulous little program here. But thank you guys so much for joining us this week. This was the Wednesday, May 19th. I had to check my calendar because who knows what day it is anymore. Wednesday, May 19th, new comic book day. As always, I'm Amy.
And I'm Paul.
And this has been the Comics Hall. See you
Bye,
guys next time.
everyone.